So
Well, we get to choose who
sometimes,
we want to be, right?
especially when we're trying to be realistic, because I work with foreclosures a lot, and sometimes a lot of the owners they're in distress, or even before pre foreclosure, some investors are they're over leveraged and they really need to liquidate.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's just hard talking with them to get them to understand this before they're hitting foreclosure. Especially in
Yeah.
Georgia, I know in other states it's different, but in Georgia you can be foreclosed on after 60 days.
Really?
After two missed payments, they can foreclose.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. When do they file the notice of default?
The notice, I think after the first payment, after the first missed payment, they can file. And I think after I know for a fact because I'm a loan officer, so after 60 days, the lender can move forward with foreclosure. So after two missed payments, the lender can legally move forward with foreclosure. And because Georgia is a title theory, they don't have to go through the courts because you already signed that document at closing saying that they could proceed with this foreclosure if you miss these two payments.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay.
Hey, can you elaborate on that over leverage piece, because that is something that that's something it gets to one of the core things that Otis talks about a lot to prevent you from being in that position. But tell us more about your experiences with investors being over leveraged.
They expanded too quickly, so too many properties, and sometimes you have issues with said properties, so they just lack the capital to cover these issues, especially if they may have had tenants in there. Or in one case, this is not my personal client, but one of my partner has a client in South Georgia where they, I guess, expanded too quickly. They have a property that's not up to code for them to rent out to tenants, and they bought this property, I guess, thinking they were going to be able to renovate it, et cetera, et cetera. And mind you, they financed it, so they still have to pay that mortgage on it and the property taxes, of course, and they're not generating any type of cash flow from it because it's not even up to code to get tenants in. So they're over leveraged because paying that mortgage payment and I guess trying to do whatever they were attempting to do has made them financially strained. So they're at the point where they're breaking even because they still have to pay for their expenses where they live and whatever other additional expenses that they have. So that's the over leverage that I see.
Got it. Yeah, there's no notice of default filed in Georgia. I'm wondering if it's because they use a different type of security instrument than
I told
California.
you, Georgia is title is what is it? Lien theory, or I have to.
Well, they use a notice of sale under power. That's what in lieu of the notice of default, but their timeline is a lot quicker, just like you said. And
Yeah, it's 60. It's 60. I know for a fact on the 60 days because they like drilled that into us in our loan officer training. Like
yeah,
60 days, you can move forward. Well, the lender is able to move forward with foreclosure. We can buy. Well, the lender can bypass the courts. They don't have to go through the court like you have to do in Florida and like you have to do in those other states where I think the borrower gets the title. The borrower doesn't get the title here. They sign the title over to the lender during closing.
gotcha. Okay, so yeah, so if that happened to me, I would just file for bankruptcy protection. I wouldn't go through with it, but we'll stop all that foreclosure conversation. You got to use them bankruptcy laws, folks. What's up, Michael Reed? All right, Michael, I'm gonna put you on mute, brother. Got some background noise, but no,
Yeah, and I
Sheree.
just found out yesterday. This is something that I didn't know. Because, like I said, I got properties on foreclosure. I
Mhm.
have, and I try to explain to these people. Sometimes it's investors, sometimes it's regular owner occupants. I try to explain to them this is not a joke.
Yeah,
You miss two payments. That's it. They said closing. So I have obtained some properties via that particular way.
right.
And but what I found out yesterday was that This is some probate stuff. I'm not really familiar with how the whole probate process works, but I guess I wouldn't be because I'm more of a trust fund baby myself. I believe in trust. I don't do wills. I do
Oh,
anything to
you got a trust fund, Sherry?
yeah, I have a
Hey,
trust. So
hey, y'all better get. She
I
got
don't
some
do it. So
paper,
I'm not.
y'all better go hit her DMs up.
No. I have a trust for my beneficiaries. So
Okay,
I
okay.
don't so I'm not really familiar with all of that probate stuff because everything that I do is going to be avoiding a probate. But anyway, so I just found out that if the owner unalives, TikTok language, if the owner unalives, that when they have, even if they have a will, right, it still goes through probate. Everybody should know this. Even if you have a will, it goes through probate. The state is going to
Yep,
touch your money.
it could be contested.
So,
Yep,
right, and even what is it, intestate. So
intestate. Yeah.
when a court assigns heirs, so it may be multiple heirs on a property, then that means that these multiple heirs have an equitable share in this property. So if an investor comes up to one of the heirs and they say, "Hey, I want to buy you out of your share," and the heir is like, "Sure, I'll take the money," the investor can now sue the rest of the they can now sue the rest of the heirs for said property.
So yeah, yes, they can sue. I mean, but you can sue anybody for anything, and I've seen that actually happen before.
Yeah,
I've
but
se-
from this it's a lot of way it's a way that they're getting the property because a lot of times these heirs don't have any money,
yeah.
so they don't have the financial resources to fight in court.
So they don't necessarily sue to get the property; they sue to force the sale because the other people on title still have to be made whole. So there's a lot of different that can go either. There's a lot of things that are involved with that are going to determine whether the investor is successful or not. I tell people, look, if you're not going to do a will and you're going on title with somebody, at least go on title as joint tenants with a right of survivorship,
Right.
right? But a land trust is going to be the best possible option. Even if you buy it in your personal name, put that property in a land trust, a real estate privacy trust, and then set up your trustee and beneficiary. We now do that in house at Four
Yeah.
Data Points Academy. So there's an easy way around that. People just don't pay attention, and
They don't pay attention.
they
They
get
don't
caught
pay
up in
attention.
that.
And I think that a lot of people think that it costs a lot of money to set up a trust. It essentially, I guess, to some people it is. It does cost
To
a
do it the right
significant amount
way,
of money. Yeah, to create a trust. But for me, a trust is just easier because I just make the trust the beneficiary of everything. I don't have to worry about putting this beneficiary's name, this beneficiary's name. It's just the trust. And the trust lists who the beneficiaries are. And the trust can easily, if people did have a trust, they could easily avoid that type of situation where you have heirs selling a portion of their equitable share in a property and then having to deal with litigation in court.
well, I will say this: a trust by itself is better than nothing, but a trust should fit into your overall structure. So I have my real estate structure, and then I have my overall life structure. So for the real estate, the first thing you need to do is isolate the asset. So if they come after one asset, they can't go after all of them. So the best way to isolate and the most cost-effective way to isolate an asset is a real estate privacy trust or a land trust. So if I have 6 houses,
I can't hear you. Is it just me?
no, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, somebody was calling. So if let's say I have 6 houses, I got to isolate each house because if one gets attacked, anything that's in that entity, they can attack all of that. So we isolate the asset with a land trust, also called a real estate privacy trust. So 6 houses, 6 land trusts. Now the beneficiary of that land trust, that's how, first of all, it'll be me if there's mortgages on those houses, but then I'll swap it out. It's a change in beneficial interest. And that's how I bring it into my overall legal structure. So I may have an LLC to add a level of separation. I have a few reasons for doing that, but the managing member of that LLC is going to be my C Corp.
Yeah.
Now, off to the side, I'm going to have another C Corp that acts as the trustee that manages everything. That C corp is going to own nothing. It's just going to control everything
So it's a holding.
It's a holding company and it's a management company. The holding company is going to be the C corp that is on the beneficiary chain, right? So I tell people, look, talk to a qualified professional first, right? And if you don't know what to say, hey, look, I want to accomplish three things. I want tax favor, liability protection, and anonymity. Those three things, because those required layered protection, right? One of the good things about Mac Enterprise Consulting, if you know Dwayne, they lay a really good foundation for everything, right? But you got to build on that foundation. A C corp is going to give you the most protection, the most separation, because that is an individual in the eyes of the tax code. But that C corp should be using other entities to its benefit also. So it could get complicated because all of our structures are going to be different. The more assets you get, you may have to revisit your legal structure. Go ahead, Sheree.
Right. So, Odis, are you saying that you, in your particular scenario, you use your C corp as the holding company? You don't use a trust as a holding. You don't use a trust as a holding company.
No, I don't use a trust as a holding company. I use a C corp because the tax benefits.
And the C corp is inside of the trust.
The C corp is the beneficiary of the trust.
The C corp is the benefit. Okay.
Yeah, and then I have another C corp that is the trustee. Right. So the trustee is front facing. You can look that up under public record. You just can't see the beneficiary. So the swapping the beneficial ownership gives me a level of privacy that's in alignment with what I'm trying to accomplish. So
okay, yeah, because I'm literally just getting started with my real estate acquisitions and things. So I just kind of set up a holding company, and with my personal trust, I have a third party beneficiary, not a beneficiary, but a third party trustee. So something like a Charles Schwab or something like that, or Caldwell Trust Company.
Yeah, so, I probably wouldn't use. I've got to be my own trustee now, unless it is an investment vehicle that requires them to be in the trustee position, but their role is more custodial than trustee.
Well, they're trustee I'm trustee now, and I'm trustee now, and then they are succeeding trustees.
Okay, so if something happens to you, got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so yeah, that's a rabbit hole. We can go down that all day, right? But the goal is anonymity, liability protection, and tax favor. So I tell people, talk to a qualified professional. If you don't know of one, I will put you in touch with one. But I tell people not to do too much in the beginning because I front loaded everything. I knew where I was going, so I wanted my whole infrastructure laid out in the beginning. But I was also making, a significant amount of money. So it wasn't I would have did it different if I had to be more conservative with my spending. So
yeah, for sure. If you know where you're going, then you're going to move in a different way. I know exactly what it is that I'm trying to achieve, but I will say that smaller people can do it. I think what's important for me,
absolutely,
you have to, like you say, you have to understand what's important to you. And to me, definitely being anonymous is important to me, because once people figure out, your net worth and assets and stuff that you have, it just creates more of a target on your back. So that is why a lot of old money families, a lot of families that have this generational wealth, you know the last name, but you don't know the individuals themselves that are actually running the show, because they maintain this anonymous.
Anonymity. Yeah, no, I agree. Like if I go out and cut up, right? And the opposing counsel, the first thing they're going to do, especially if they see me doing all this, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to bring in a forensic accountant, and they're going to look at everything that I own, bank accounts, everything. And folks, they can get access to that stuff, right? They're going to look to see everything that I own. And what they're going to find is he didn't own anything. So what are we going to go after? Right? You can go after whatever you want. I'll just file bankruptcy. What are you gonna garnish my wages? I don't have. Yeah. So
that's my thing. Own nothing.
Own nothing. Control everything. Folks.
Boom.
But, that's the Rockefeller way.
Control everything.
That is the Rockefeller way. So we just got to make sure that we're realistic in how we move forward. I tell people, look, have something to protect first. Like, let's make some money first. then we can start talking about how to structure it, because your legal structure is not static. All right, it's dynamic. It's going to continue to move. It's going to continue to adjust. It's like a living, breathing organism, right? So, I say, look, let's make some money first. Then the conversation about what to do with it is a lot easier, right? A lot.
And that's what I try to tell people too, because a lot of people, I guess, when you're coming from poverty, it's different than if you came from upper middle class income family or something like that. When you're coming from poverty, your first goal is to obtain that capital. So when you're coming from poverty, you don't have the luxury of, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, you need to do what you have to do so that you can get this money, so that you can move forward and live a more comfortable life.
Well, yeah, the poverty situation is, first of all, that's economic trauma. And the dangerous part about coming from that type of situation is the trauma associated with it can influence your decision making going forward. So where I see that show up the most is, let's say somebody has $5,000. Let's say I have $5,000. That person that has that economic trauma is going to do everything they can to hold on to that $5,000. I know $5,000 ain't enough to do. That's not. I can't live off that the rest of my life. So why am I going to make that my harvest? So I got to make the choice to make it my seed. So it's okay. I've got to deploy this $5,000 so I can make more money. Where a poor person's mindset is, I got to hold on to this $5,000 because it's all I have. And when I'm training people, that's a hard thing to coach through, right? It's a hard thing to coach through. So I tell, but being in proximity, like I didn't have this thought process coming up. I had a poor person's mindset. The only thing is I just happen to make a lot of money relative to the average person, but I still had a poor person's mindset. And it wasn't until the last 10 years that I really made the shift to think different and be in proximity to people that think different and understand what outcome that I want to create and understand the me that I want to be 10 years from now. And when adversity came, instead of having an emotional reaction to things, I would just consult the me 10 years from now. What would that guy do? And that helped me really elevate just kind of my way of being and moving into, different rooms differently and all of those things, right? But I tell people the starting point is to make a decision to do better. See, people want something to happen to them, right? You've got to make the first move. My dad used to sing this song, you take one step, I'll take two. It was a gospel song that I don't know whether he made it up or not. But
yeah, and it's a lot of people, they do want to, well, what I figured, and I don't really spend too much of my time with these type of people, they want to get the information and then not do anything with it. It's just, I don't have time to coach you, do the work for you, et cetera, et cetera. No, I thought that if you're coming to me asking me these questions, I would think that you would have the motivation enough to actually employ and actually do something. But unfortunately, that's not the case. We have a lot at the bottom and few at the top.
Well, you have to I'm talking about me specifically. I have to create a lane for people. And I don't get frustrated at a poor person's mindset because it's not their fault. And I know that there were forces working against them that they didn't know about. So there's specific people and groups, organizations that benefited from you having a poor person's mindset. So I don't fault the people, but I also can't let them get incorporated or embedded into what I'm doing to the point where they can influence what it is that I'm doing. So I give up a lot of the free information away. I answer a lot of questions, and I have an enormous amount of patience because I understand what it's like to be in that mindset. And for somebody that looks like me, we know our history. We weren't treated very well in a lot of these spaces. So, we were getting taken advantage of. That's why a lot of baby boomers that look like us don't like having a mortgage. They want to pay it all off because there was a lot of predatory lending back then. So I get that. Now we're in a different time now, but that trauma doesn't go away by itself because they impart that on their kids. And this is where we're at. So, so how do you fight that, right? First of all, you got to give people a different perspective. How do you change somebody's perspective? You got to give them new information. How do you give them new information? You break down core principles that they can understand. 4 data points is 4 questions. We started this company based on 4 questions that you need to ask, answer, and interpret to be a successful real estate investor in any given transaction. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? The average person can remember 4 questions. And that is where the initial shift happens. They realize, hey, this stuff is attainable. Like, I can take the answers to these 4 questions and make buying decisions once I know how to interpret these answers. So again, we don't have an end date on our mentorship. I'm going to mentor you for life until you no longer need me to, period. And I'm not going to have you keep paying over and over and over. You're going to pay one time, I'm going to mentor you for life. You're going to have to make the decision that you don't want to do it anymore, right? And the reason for that is because overcoming that, poor person's mindset. Now, first of all, folks, being broke and being poor is not the same. I've been broke many times, but I've never been poor. I've had traces of a poor person's mindset, but I've never been poor. I always believed that it was temporary, and with enough information, I could overcome that, right? So I'm not talking about going through a financial storm. There's some of us that are doing everything right, raising kids, going to work, and we're still not getting ahead because sometimes there's more days in the month than we have paycheck, right? And I get that, right? So it's not, I don't want to paint the picture that folks are doing anything wrong. Folks are doing the best they can, which is why I come in and say, okay, keep doing exactly what you're doing, but while you're doing it, approach it this way and watch how things look different, right? When you're at work, you got to be there anyway. Learn the person's job above you. Not only that, take tasks from them so that the natural progression is you moving into that position. See, entrepreneurship isn't just about jumping out and starting on your own. Entrepreneurship starts when you make the decision to become an entrepreneur. And if you're in the corporate environment, your exit strategy from the corporate environment is part of that entrepreneurial journey, right? And people just, we're in this environment where everybody's trying to sell us something all the time, and people are selling outcomes. And, part of the reason, well, yeah, I honesty and integrity and doing good business is part of it as well. But part of the reason I give people realistic expectations of what it is to be a real estate investor, what it is to be an entrepreneur, what it is to be this, what it is to be that, because I've got to answer for it. If somebody comes into my program and we can't deliver, there's no end date. So I can't say, I don't have the luxury of saying, well, you graduated, come back next time and write us another check if you want to get back in. I've got to look at them every week, just like this. And, I teach most of our classes, all right? They're live, all right? 4 nights a week. So I don't have the luxury. You got to be upfront and straight with people. A lot of what I do is damage control. Things go great in real estate. I don't spend much time in the space where things are going great. There's nothing for me to gain there. When things are going bad, that's when I have to step in with my students, and we look and we hash it out just like it's me. That's all part of it. So I have an enormous amount of patience. The first task is getting people to think like an investor. I can teach you the mechanics of being an investor. I can teach you the mechanics of being an entrepreneur, but thinking like one is the hard part. And we got to spend a little more time on that. Folks.
What scenario do you see where you have to step in and do damage control for them?
Well, I had one situation where one of my students is doing a flip, and there was some structural damage to the house that needed to be fixed, but they needed the neighbor because there was a attached wall. They needed a neighbor to consent. So the neighbor was being uncooperative, and we know time kills deals. So we actually had to take the neighbor to court to get an injunction because the house was not safe. And in these delays, she's financing this project. So the financing expiration is coming up, right? The due date is coming up. So she's having to get extensions and pay for those. And it's just one thing after another. So so we're talking 3-4 times a week coming up with, strategy and who we need to talk to, and what attorney we need to be on the phone with, and how we're going to communicate to the lender. And I'm drafting a lot of her communication. That is extremely.
He must have had a phone call or something. Am I the only one that's paused? Hello?
No, it was me. I can still hear y'all. I gotta approve somebody's hours, but I can do it while I'm on with y'all. Yeah, so folks, it's a long journey. It is a long journey, and part of the benefit of being a part of that journey is there's revenue streams that we can create together in the future. right? Like, I had a lot of not a lot, but enough for me to mention it. They would look at our business model and they would see that somebody only pays once, they never pay again. We allocate time and resources to them in perpetuity. And a lot of them reach the same conclusion. You're going to go bankrupt in 6 months. You can't allocate time and resources to people in perpetuity and just have them pay once. There's no way to recoup that. But I knew that there was going to be additional opportunities where we can all make money as a network. And we're going on 5 years now, right? Just over 5 years. So there's a method to the madness. And a lot of people, and you guys are going to experience this, a lot of people aren't going to understand your vision, right? And they shouldn't. It's not their vision. It's your vision. And sorry, I'm running payroll right now. So when I said things like, we're going to be the largest real estate training platform in the country, that was true. That I didn't even have a doubt about. That's easy work. That's light work. I know who our competitors are. That's light work. Okay. But when I said that we are going to be the largest real estate investing training platform, entrepreneurship training platform, and personal development training platform, people started to look at me sideways. Like I just woke up and decided, hey, I'm going to do these things. And they didn't realize that there was a plan in place to be able to accomplish these at the beginning. And when so the personal development is run by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Alfred Smith. And he has, I'm horrible at multitasking. So he has, what is this, January, Friday was the 30th. Let's do it payroll. Let's run it today so she can get paid. So he has a PhD in organizational leadership. So while I would love to be like the mastermind behind everything, he's just a genius to do all these. No, I just know how to bring people together to create an outcome that benefits everybody. And when we start doing these kind of one-offs, these one-offs turn into their own brand. Venture U is our entrepreneurship leg. But we have 2 programs. We have the International Business Retreat, and we have a 6-week Venture U program that we're going to be rolling out March 1st. Why do you think I came up with this retreat? I needed to see how I could bring more value to the marketplace. I like traveling. I love Medellin, Colombia. People love going on vacation. Sure, I could do another online live program like we're doing, but I want to do that. So let's do that. And how would I do it? How would I put it together? Now, what difficulty did I have as an entrepreneur coming up? What was all the challenges? Because I'm going to look at all that. I'm going to alleviate them for everybody. One, I didn't know what questions to ask. Okay, we'll alleviate that. We got a questionnaire, and I have a line of questioning that can bring it out of them. 2, consultants were too expensive. I charge $500 an hour. I got friends that charge $1,000 an hour. That's too expensive. Most people don't have that in the beginning. That's fine. I'll fly all the consultants in and have them at the retreat at the villa. I'll have them speaking and working with people there. Okay, great. All the fluff, everybody's selling information. I need what I need to make me successful. I don't want to take a 3-hour course in this. I don't want to take a 4-hour course in coming up with a sales process. I don't want to take a 2-hour workshop on, social media marketing. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I don't have time for that stuff. So I want it not only built out for me, but I also want a step-by-step process tailored for me in my specific business, which is going to require a specific outcome. I want to be able to look at it. So I don't have to go to all these consultants and go back and forth. So we're going to do that. Right now, I also don't want to have any distractions. Right. When it's time to work, it's time to work. I don't want to be having to figure out what I'm going to eat all day and where are we going to eat here. So I'm going to fix that. I'll have executive chefs come in and they'll take care of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Well, if it's a new country, like, I don't know, I feel kind of nervous by myself. I'm traveling by myself. No, we'll have somebody waiting at the airport to bring you to the villa. Okay. So every single obstacle that I could imagine, we overcame. And I said, let's do it. It started out as an idea. I got that idea. 15 minutes later, I was putting it together. We sold out the first one. Everybody's talking good about it. We're going to sell out this one. And our brand is going to be very well known because we under promise and over deliver. Amen. So I know some of you guys just got here. If you guys are entrepreneurs or you want to be entrepreneurs and maybe you just have an idea, but if you just want something better, fill out that form. I'll send you information about our business retreat. It's in Medellin, Colombia. It's the first week of April. We fly in March 31st. We fly out April 6th. And it's going to be one of the best times you ever had. MDE is the airport. Mike Delta Echo, MDE. But we'll send you all of that. We'll send you all that information. Oh, Tiara, come up here. You were there at this last retreat. So yeah, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to, when I do something, I want to be the best at it. Even when I went back into corporate and had to start at the bottom when I was leasing apartments, I would not hold a position and have somebody else in that same position outperform me. I wouldn't even be able to sleep at night. And you call it ego, call it whatever you want, and I would outwork them. I would outwork them 100% of the time. Like, you would have to wake up really early to outwork me. Same thing with these events. I know a lot of people are doing entrepreneurial events. I want to be the best. I know people are doing real estate workshops. I want to be the best. I know people are doing virtual real estate workshops. I want to be the best. I want to offer the most value. I want to make it so no one can say anything negative about my brand or what we do on a large scale, because the people they're talking to will defend me. That's where we're at. All right. Are we perfect? No, but we're trying to be. And if there's an area where we're not perfect and we find out first, we're already trying to make it perfect. There's no, trust me, folks, the amount of money I pour back into this business to increase the end user experience is absurd. It's absurd. All right. All right, folks, look, I feel like I made some new friends. Put a 1 in the chat if this is the first time you came to one of my lives today.